How about Bob Lynch? Aren't we blessed to have his leadership? Thank you, Bob, so much. It's an honor to be here with you. I want to congratulate Senator Murkowski for receiving your award this year. It's great to be with you, Dr. Chu, Brian. So many of you, I could acknowledge almost all of you in the room because you've done so much. Let me just say why this year is different. This year is different. We always have to fight. Louise Slaughter and Leonard Lance, as chairs of the Arts Caucus, each year we have to make the fight to keep the funding. This funding is so little compared to what we should be doing. It's just so little. And Bob mentioned about my work on these subjects as it pertains to artists, creative people. In my district, I'm very blessed. But what I did know from the creative people in my district is when they were starting off in the rest, some of them had to have another job so they could get health benefits in order for them to pursue their creative initiatives. And that was they just could not reach their fulfillment doing that way. So the Affordable Care Act, in my view, was something that was liberating life, a creative life, the liberty to pursue that in a way that honored the vows of our founders. Why I say this is a different year. I mean, from the start of our country, some of you have heard me say this over and over, but it always moves me. From the start of our country, John Adams wrote to Abigail Adams and he said, I must study war and politics so that our sons began to study engineering and mathematics and architecture and other subjects, medicine, so that their children would have the liberty to study music and poetry and painting. He did say tapestry as well, and other arts. So it was about giving future generations more opportunity, but recognizing the creative spirit of America. As we all know, this is the 100th, well, we may not all know, but it's the 100th anniversary this year of the birth of President Kennedy. And President Kennedy, in the spirit of John Adams, he said, the life of the arts, far from being an interruption, a distraction in the life of a nation, is close to the center of a nation's purpose. Center's purpose. So they're talking about cutting the arts. And what does that mean? That means the arts means arts in the schools where kids get their greatest confidence in following their creative aspirations. The poet Shelley once wrote, the greatest force for moral good is imagination. And think of it, imagination to put yourself into someone else's shoes, to understand, imagination to be creative, to inspire. And that is why I say this year is more necessary than ever for us to focus on this. Bob has heard me say again and again, this is where we will find our unity in our country. The arts bring people together. We laugh together, we cry together, we sing together, we dance. You can never dance too much, right? We share a common humanity, and politics is forgotten. Divisions are set aside. And this artistic, the creative community in our country has a very big responsibility to, again, take us to a higher place where we have so much more common ground. It's really necessary because there are things being said and done in our country now that are not the face of America in terms of how we make judgments about people, their faith, their ethnicity, their origins and the rest. And the arts are the common denominator, what brings the best common denominator to bring us together. So this year, it's not just about the money. And by the way, I said on TV this weekend, they said, well, why should a worker in West Virginia be paying for the arts? What? Why would you even ask such a question when in the budget, look at my head, a hair on my head is the arts budget. A hair on my head. It is so small. It is so small. We should be increasing it. But to say we're going to cut it, well, maybe it's let's give them the benefit of the doubt that it's a tactic. So they make us fight for it again to justify the reason. And what are the justification? Bringing our country together, creativity, the arts, the spirit of our country, as John F. Kennedy said, and as John Adams recognized. It's about jobs. It's about jobs, jobs, jobs. If you want to forget everything creative and that spiritual, inspirational, and just be pragmatic and say, it's about jobs. So this is, with stiff competition, one of the worst cuts, one of the dumbest moves with stiff competition they could have made. So as we all get revved up about all of this, let's just remember our children in schools. When I go to the poorest districts in our country, the moms will say to me, please don't have them cut the arts in the schools. That's where my child gains the most confidence, reaches fulfillment. That teaches him or her that they can do other things because they have confidence. It's such an important part of our humanity, So when you make that fight, it's of course about the individual enjoyment that we have, the inspiration we receive, the jobs that it creates, about all of those things, but it's about our humanity. So thank you so much for what you are doing. This is a different fight. It has nothing to do with politics. Nothing to do with politics. That's the least of it. This is about America. It's about who we are as a nation from the start and as we go into the future. And this is about how we view ourselves into the future as this creative, imaginative country that accomplishes moral good inspired by imagination. Thank you for what you do. Are we ready? Are we ready for a big fight? Are we ready for a big fight? This is probably one of the most enjoyable fights, and it is a fight that we must and we will win. Thank you, Bob Lynch, for your leadership.